Support for the Pursuit of Music podcast is brought to you by Brooke Mays Music. Brooke Mays Music is a family of retail specialists who unify their professional skills and talents in order to focus on the needs of music education and educators. Their main goal is to increase the number of active instrumental music makers. Their objectives include, number 1, maintain strong working relationships for the lifespan of the music maker's career, and number 2, encourage the love and participation in music, and finally, number 3, being an active advocate for support of music in the schools. The voice of music education drives our actions. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Brooke Mays Music.
Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls. Say masterpiece.
Cloud strikes upon the hour and sun begins to fade. Still living up time to figure out how to chase my blues away. I've been around up till now. It's the light of day that shows me how. You don't have to be rich. Don't have to be fool. Rule my world.
Welcome to my house. Where we at? Hey. Welcome to my house. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Hey. So we done this before, so you come on in. Hey. Make yourself in my home, tell me where you been. Serve yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this. Hey, how we do, how's you gotta stay?
Well, today we've got a very special guest with us. Philip Holmes is the leader of Inversion Band. He's a software engineer. He flies planes. He's a guitar player. He's a pretty wicked, awesome dude. So we're very happy to have Philip Holmes on with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Philip.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm glad you appreciate the nerd
dude,
that I am.
As we were saying when we were off the recording, I was kind of creeping your Facebook page, and you had shared a video from Steve Vai, and when he put on that concert with Joe Satriani and Eric Johnson, that was like one of the most monumental videos of my early childhood, because I played guitar was my first love. So
that's a religious experience. I've seen, you know,
amazing,
I mean the G3 tour. I think Satriani, Eric Johnson, and Andy Timmons, who's Andy's probably the most underrated best player in the world, like top 5. And I mean, it's almost a religious experience to go see those guys. It's crazy. And so you're like, wow, I just don't even want to pick it up anymore. Why do I even try?
Well, I need to get, before we even like dive into history and stuff like that, can I get your opinion on Yngwie Malmsteen? What do you think about his playing?
Yngwie Malmsteen, yeah, I know Yngwie. Yngwie is incredible. I mean, his picking is incredibly clean. I mean, he's one of the most incredible neoclassical player, rock fusion neoclassical guys ever. I mean, like probably technically, if you want to get technical, probably like one of the best top 5 in the world, right? You got, of course, everyone pretty much worships Alan Holdsworth. So that's, when you talk about, Andy and all those, and Steve and all those guys, Eddie Van Halen, all the great rock players, Al Di Meola, you know, they're all kind of like Alan Holdsworth was the, you know, the source of you know,
Yeah.
of where of everyone came from. And then you have, you know, EJ and everybody who kind of, he had a little bit different. I think EJ's influence were Charlie Parker, and you know, he had,
Interesting.
you know, really unusual influences, but you know, Alan's in there. So
Yeah.
but
Anyways,
yeah,
I've always, like, when you said you watch this guy play and it makes you just want to put the instrument down and just quit. Like,
yeah,
Bill
it's
was
like
one of those
Spinal
guys
Tap.
for me.
I don't even know
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick it up anymore, but forget it.
So anyway, let's dive into it. So let's get a little bit of history on you and your musical career, because everyone comes to a musical experience kind of in their own. Everyone's got their own personal story. So I'm curious about
Yeah.
yours.
So yeah, I mean, I started really young, and I don't really remember. I guess it's probably, you know, I got my first guitar when I was like 6 or 7, and I wanted to play it, but didn't really have the, you know, the technical ability to. And came from a really, you know, my mom and I were, you know, pretty, we're, you know, pretty, just kind of scraping along. So we didn't have a lot of money for lessons, but that, you know, didn't stop me later on. Our situation improved, and I guess about 11 or 12 had a was at Apollo Junior High, and I think I was in 7th grade. And
You went to Apollo Junior High?
I did go to Apollo Junior High, and
I went to Apollo Junior High.
really, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's small world,
Very cool.
man.
I grew up across the street from Apollo Junior High.
I used to hang out at Huffines Park every day.
Yeah, across the street from Huffines
Yeah.
Park.
I was like one of the bad kids. I was like, you know, one of the long hair freaky kids that hung out there and with our guitars and
Well, Michael used to play metal music out in his car, if that's what I understand. You were driving
Awesome.
through the parking lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know you look familiar. I don't know when you graduated, but
I graduated in 2000 from Berkeley.
2000. Okay, so yeah, so you're younger than I am.
Wow.
So, but anyway, so yeah, and I got my first electric, and you know, I saw music, you know, as my path forward. It turned out in life that, you know, it wasn't my primary path all the way. I would have liked for it to be, but you know, I have a autistic child, and you know, software kind of pays the bills and keeps the insurance going. So that's what, you know, I would have probably gone full time, probably, you know, 15 years ago, or in that area, had I been, you know, just, you know, single guy, you know. But software has definitely been good for me. I started learning how to code, taught myself how to code, and opened my software business, and sold it 2003 to 2004. You know, when I've worked for several companies since then, and you know, but music has always been there, and I've always worked, you know, as hard, if not harder, and sacrificed for it. I've sacrificed a couple jobs for it, as a matter of fact, for the band. And so the band, well, I'll go back to the music. And so I was at Apollo Junior High. I never forget my first teacher. Her name was Miss Young. Jeff Wagner was the principal there, and at that time, and Jeff was also a guitar player, and a real cool principal, probably the coolest principal
you could ever have.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Jeff,
awesome.
Jeff even had put together a band for, you know, one of the kids who had been stricken with an illness, and I think his name was Brian. And so we had the whole school, and that's kind of one of like a 7th grader's dream, is to perform in front of your own, in front of, like, you know, 2,000 kids or 1,500 kids in your school. And so that was my first gig, and I was hooked. And so, you know, music has definitely shaped my life. And so I had, when I made my own software company, I kind of put it down for a while. And then after I sold it, and I got back into it, and music's kind of been one of those things when, you know, whenever I've gone through something difficult, you know, it's always been there, and has made me, has kind of been an escape. And so,
Yeah.
But you know, played around, started getting back out into it, started gigging again, and played around in, a lot of the primary bands in Dallas, Downtown Fever, Emerald City Projects, Random Access, Studio 54, several of the top bands out there. Even subbed a couple times, I think, for Intensity Entertainment, and definitely was where I wanted to go. And I came up with this idea, and it just kind of hit me in the middle of the night, like a lot of ideas do. And I said, how about inversion? And my wife said, well, what does it mean? And I said, well, it's like in the inversion of the song. It's kind of a corny, double meaning. And I said, that's why the V is capitalized. And I said, I think that would be
okay.
a good band
yeah.
name. And so, our slogan is inversion. And, our first slogan was turning the dance scene upside down, which was, but now it's kind of, we have your party covered, right? So we go anywhere, we play anywhere, for anyone. And, we're definitely, a gung-ho group, and we have some great people. All of the people in the band, the core, the foundation of this band is incredibly solid. Everybody in it is somebody that that I call my friend, and and have lifelong relationships with. And so some, the membership has turned over the years, and I've maintained a lot of those relationships. And the group that we have now, I just couldn't ask for a better group of people with their work ethic and just their individual outlooks and personalities and loyalty. And so I love working with them, and I hope to work with them for years to come.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to hear about the early days of starting a band, because I would imagine you get the idea, then you have a few things that you like to play, you ask your buddies, and then what? I mean, how do you get the music learned? How do you start to get performance venues? What did you do?
Well, what it basically boiled down to is I started in December of 2010. And so I believe our first show was at Z Grill when Alaboud was the owner of Z Grill at that time, and he gave us a shot. And it was great. And we had an incredible crowd. They came out and supported, and I was kind of connected already through the music scene. Mm-hmm. So as far as the material goes, the permutations of the material has changed. When I first came out, I thought, I'm going to be different. I'm not going to be a wedding band, right? I'm not going to do what everyone else does. And I've still kind of done that. We're still different. And our mashups and everything that we do are not typical, but I can definitely say that over the years you kind of get the formula. You understand that you can't go out there and you can't be we're not Buckcherry, right? We're not going to ever do that. We're going to we need to play the material and dress for the job that we want. And so as soon as I kind of got that through my thick skull, about a year in, we actually started booking privates and in weddings and corporate gigs, and I was like, okay. And Greg Harville was a singer with us, and he kind of helped us. He kind of suggested, we look good, but why don't we start dressing up like we're at a private, right? And I was like, great. You're that's right. And even though we're playing nightclubs, it was hard to ask everyone to put that extra dry cleaning bill on their tab and put a tie on, but it paid off. And that's that, and we did that, and we started basically making the band look and colors more uniform, and lo and behold, we even started getting more privates. And so for the majority of the years, gigs really haven't been a problem, because COVID thing's kind of really the only time we've really been idle in the last 9 years. I can honestly say I've gigged, almost 50 weekends a year, and even like this year we even booked Christmas Eve. And so the main thing is you just try to do your best for everybody, and I keep the overhead low so the clients are getting a good value with a 10-piece band. we fluctuated, over the years from 9 to 11 piece. And right now we're at a 10 piece, and we're kind of holding stat until this COVID thing kind of runs its course. And then we'll make a decision, because the clubs that we do pay out have definitely cut their budgets. And so we're trying to stay in them, and I'm trying not to lose so much and in the clubs. So, but we do have some weddings coming up, and so we're looking forward to that this month. I'm hoping Abbott doesn't shut down the venues, and I don't think that's going to happen. So, fingers crossed. So this, by the way, this is the background. This is the actual, some of the production of Inversion Band. And so some of it. And so
it looks extremely professional.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I have a question.
One of my best buddies and partner in crime is Royale Rainey, and he's our bongo player, and he sings incredibly. He does a mean Prince, and sings everything he sings is great. And so he helps me load in. He shows up early and stays late, and so he's there right with me. And so he's
I was going to ask if do you guys collectively put all of that together? Because I know, my dad's a guitar player, and he said that the setting up and the tearing down is just like one of the biggest hassles.
It's brutal. Yeah, it's brutal. And, especially in Texas summers when you're loading into a venue that has a parking lot that's, 2 football fields away. And so you're, like I said, I do it, and Royale shows up before the show. Several of the guys will stay after, sometimes, more so than others. If we have a difficult load in, I'll ask for folks to, to help out, and I try to compensate, them financially when that happens. I try not to let anyone, not go unrewarded, even though sometimes the budgets are pretty thin.
Right.
But the group of folks, Jason Oliver, Marco, Brandon, Royale, everybody, the guys in the band, a lot of them will stay and help, and it's really teamwork, team players.
Right. So it sounds like, I mean, maybe I caught this wrong, but it sounds like a lot of your initial business came from that idea of image. And we talk about with what you're wearing and with the stage setup.
Yeah.
Do you have like an overall concept of what the Inversion image is, or is that morphed over time? Or
yeah, I mean, the image is, the image we try to portray is, professional, fun party band, right? And so the setup that we put out there is consistent show to show, right? We never mail it in, right? And so we basically try to to present when, no matter what venue you're in, we're going to make it look like a concert. And you're going to get a concert. You're going to get professional sound, professional lighting, and a professional band that knows how to MC. And we also, even Brandon, our male lead, he even brings a DJ rig. So we DJ in the band's off time. So he throws and spins the tunes and does mashups, and that's included in our price. And so we offer a lot. We have a lot of value that goes into our shows, and a lot of work, and we're definitely the most one of the most cost effective. Like, I've had planners say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so cheap?" And I'm like, well, I've kept my overhead low. I pay my musicians, I wish I could pay them $1 million, pay my musicians going rate, but I don't have a lot. I don't have a brick and mortar. I have ads and stuff that I run online, but I keep it low. And my goal is to keep to grow the business and to keep my musicians busy. My goal is not to live off Inversion, and that's what the software business does for me. And so the Inversion, it makes a little money, but not a lot. And so, what I try to do, my sound man and my people make way more than I do, if it's you that way.
Yeah.
And so one day, maybe that'll change. We've been trying to grow the business organically, and we're progressing. If we raised our rates, and we're raising them a little bit more for 2021. There's a lot of competition out there, so we just try to, we try to offer a great quality product that's professional, fast setups, fast out, fast loadouts, great music, great production, and we do it for a great price. So the old paradigm is that you only get 2 out of 3, fast, cheap, and good, right? Well, we're all 3, and that
Right.
and that is really hard to do. And I'm in a unique situation to kind of offer that.
Yeah. So what is the end goal for Inversion? Like where, I know this is the cliche of all cliches, but what's y'all's like 2 to 5 year to 10-year plan?
Yeah.
Assuming that COVID dies down eventually, we get
Sure.
over this all.
Sure. I mean, COVID's kind of been weird, and it's kind of stopped a lot of brides in their tracks from booking. I've picked up a few weddings over the COVID period, but not like we would have. And so, I would say, the goal is to basically be booked at private events twice a weekend at least. And, or, Thursday would be fine. Most clubs can't have us because we're too big, to have us on a weekday. But, the goal is, to have, 50 Saturdays booked plus some Fridays and some Thursday corporates. Right. And so
Yeah.
that's, if that happens, then our rates, obviously go up a little bit, but still, keeping the band busy is the main goal, and making sure that my full timers keeps their interest.
Right.
Sorry, Ben. One of the comments that we had on here was from Jason Oliver. He says very nice things about you, about being one of the hardest working guys in the business, and he says that you're a real entrepreneur. And I would love to hear about that side of what you do.
Sure.
Have you always been kind of an entrepreneurial minded person?
Yeah.
Or that come naturally, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I started working when I was like a real job, like a actual job at 14 years old, and I was in sales, selling Olin Mills pictures for like $29, three 8x10s, right? So I did that, and then I've always kind of been salesy, and been able to communicate well with people, and so I went to work for Southwestern Bell AT&T, for Southwestern Bell Publishing, and did sales for a lot of years, and kind of got my software chops going while I was working at Southwestern Bell. And then I decided that it was time to open my own business, and this was right as the ARPANET got privatized. I know I'm old, so I don't even know if your users will know what the ARPANET is. That was the military internet. And so the military internet got privatized, and I was like, hey, what is this? So I got on, and I went out to, at that time you could only cruise to the university's ARPANET, right? And you had this weird browser called Gopher. And so then I was like, wow, okay, how about this? Then a JPEG resed up on an HTML page that some guy wrote, right? And I was like, wow, that is crazy. This is convergence, right? Because I was already in Yellow Pages publishing and media, and advertising and marketing. So I was doing basically Yellow Pages, direct mail, couponing and all that stuff, sales at that time. So, and I was one of the youngest premise reps at AT&T. So I basically, or at the time we called it SWABIPS. I don't know if you guys remember SWABIPS, where people get what they
a little bit. Yeah.
So, in any case, so I was like, wow, traditional media, this is going to be crazy. And so I went to my bosses and I said, look, there's this thing called the internet. And they were like, what's that? And I said, well, it's this thing where on your computer, you can go places and see stuff. right? And it's going to kill our business. And I said, look, Yellow Pages will probably, and at the time I was pretty ambitious. I said, probably has 10 years. And this was like 1996, 797. I said, we probably have 10 years left, right? $100 million Dallas book in major markets, 150 million dollars in the books. And I was like, probably gonna kill us. And they laughed at me, right? So I said, okay, great. So I met with, I was actually in a meeting with the president of Southwestern Bell Yellow Pages. And I said, Mac, I said, we've got to get in the internet. We just go buy the domains, go get our top, 15,000 advertisers and go buy their domains right now. Go do it. And he put his hand on the Dallas Yellow Pages and he said, Phil, we're going to stick with the original database and the original interface. And we kind of feel like the internet is ham radio.
Oh.
And I said, okay, Mac. I said, okay, so that's no problem. So I started, I'd already started learning how to code. And so about a year later, I quit. And everybody told me I was nuts. And I probably am. So, that's when I started my first business. And we built it up. I had an office in Addison, and 9/11 hit. We were still profitable after that. It was kind of a COVID of that era.
Right.
And COVID's kind of a slow rolling 9/11. You know what I mean? It's like 9/11 in slow mo.
Yeah.
And so I built that business up. I think I did it for 4 or 5 years, and then a company, Graham Beecham company called Active, Graham Beecham, who was the VP of Radio Shack, he was funded by Lamar Hunt, the Hunt Oil, and they came along and wanted to buy me, and I still regret it. Still regret selling that business. Well, my partner that I was with talked me into it. My attorneys that I had at the time were trying to talk me out of it. They were like, "Look, we'll waive your legal fees. Just walk." And that's when I should have walked, because they thought the guys were snakes, and they did turn out to be snakes. So, but I did get my money out of it, and so I went on. And I worked for Match.com. We actually helped write Match.com.
That's awesome.
One of the guys that helped write the international portions of Match.com, anything not North America, which was a company called Soulmates that they bought from an Australian company, and it was in a language called Cold Fusion. And so anyway, kind of stayed there for 6-7 years and bounced around after that. And here I am. And so when all that stuff was going on, I had my son Aiden, who does have autism, and the music has kind of run parallel, with everything that's been going on. And so I don't know, if I hadn't had, my wife Linda, and of course Aiden, I never trade him for $1 million, and then music, I don't know what I would have done. And so for musicians coming in, I just say there's a lot of ways to make a living at this, right? You got to keep your overhead low, but a lot of the musicians that I've had come in that have worked full time, have had multiple things going on. Like they'll have, Inversion or, Emerald City or, whoever they're working for. And they'll have, there's several bands that support musicians out there. Jordan Kahn, Emerald City, Intensity Group, Inversion Band, Random Access, a lot of bigger acts out there. And so they also have church gigs. Church gigs are really important. It's important to have a church gig. It keeps you grounded, and when you're working those clubs, there's a lot of temptation. You got to stay away from those temptations. Right. And when you're in the clubs, my best advice is always have your limit. If you go into a club and you're drinking or whatever, have your limit. Know your limit 1%. I've had to fire people for that, and it sucks. It sucks to have to do that. And so everyone has their own limit. Know it. You know, you can drink 5 shots a set and still walk out of there and play your, you know, I don't think any band leader in town cares, but generally, you know, most people say, you know, do your 1 beer and your 1 shot or whatever, and
Yeah.
you know, walk out with a blood alcohol level of point, you know, 0.005 or whatever it is. I don't even know what
Yeah.
it is, but
especially
you know,
if you guys are looking professional, you know, if you
yeah,
guys are putting on the act that you've got a suit and tie, and you guys do look professional, so it's like
yeah, you got to
that's
stay. Don't you can't be you can't be you know, all, you know, bouncing around on stage drunk. Well,
right, right.
but yeah, I mean, so, you know, music, that's my big advice there is just, you know, you know, don't drink at all, or just know your limit. I mean, you know, that's,
Right.
you know, you know, I'll have a drink or two, but, you know, I definitely have never been, you know, completely obliterated on stage. And so
Yeah.
a lot of musicians make that mistake because they become part of the party. Right.
Oh well, what's interesting about that is that is an actual issue that comes up in college. I mean, I remember showing up to
Sure.
some orchestra concerts and ballet performances or whatever, you know, being in the pit, and it's unbelievable, you know, if you abstain. But if I mean,
Yeah.
you look at your guy and you're like, seriously, are you
Right.
really like this right now? You know, or in between, if you've
Yep.
got 4 performances for a jazz orchestra,
Yeah.
you know, it's unbelievable, but it happens. So I think that's
Sure.
good that you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's huge, and you know, maintaining control, and you know, knowing, you know, having a limit or whatever, you know, that'll take your, you know, reputation, you know, a lot. If you get a reputation of somebody who comes in and gets sloshed at gigs, the band leaders talk. I mean, I don't
Mm,
know, you know, of a lot of, you know, musicians realize that, but we're all friends, every one of
mm,
us, and so we all talk to each other, and if somebody starts developing a bad habit, then we all know it, right? And so,
right.
you know, have those church gigs, stay grounded, know your limits. You know, a lot of them will do their original stuff, and some people, you know, I've had problems like in the past. They'll say, I don't want to do the cover thing anymore because I need to do my original thing, and it's not a binary, right? It's not a binary choice, right? And so musicians that come into the variety scene, a lot of them, you know, the pros, the guys that are hardcore pros, you know, I can name 1,000, you know, Matt Francis, you know, bunch of people that I know. They'll have multiple things going on, and that's not a problem. But you know, always
Right.
manage your schedule appropriately. Like if you book with one band and a bigger, better paying gig comes along, you know, 3 days later, don't ditch that first band. Have
Yeah.
some integrity of what you're doing, right?
Right.
Uh, you know, make sure that you're honoring your word. And when you honor your word, that gets around, right?
Right.
So, you know, just be the best business person that you can be and musician. Hey,
Right. Uh,
be the best
one
business
of,
person that you can be, and the band leaders will know it, and you'll get work because of it, and learn your material. That's
yeah, one of the things Michael and I always talk about is how entrepreneurial being a musician is in and of itself. So if you've got that, you know, you talked about keeping a schedule and just kind of keeping up with yourself. We kind of feel like sometimes there's this stigma behind being a musician. I think in one of our first episodes we talked about kind of like the bohemian aspect of it, or like how that's kind of like the history of musicians generally. So I did want to talk about a lot of the questions that I get from my students is, you know, what do you do after you get that degree, or let's say you choose not to get a degree, like how do you get into the music scene? So can you kind of talk about how you, as a guitar player, got into that scene?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, if I would have known that years earlier, probably the whole direction of my life would have changed, right? Because when I was a musician in my 20s and I was working at Bell, you know, I wanted to play out, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to get into it. And the best thing to do is to go to shows, right? And if you want to if you want to get into a particular scene, you got to be seen, right?
Mm,
You got to be seen to be in the scene, and go to those clubs, go to those, you know, Memphis nightclubs or Sherlock's when the bands are playing in whatever genre that you feel like you want to get into, right? If it's a rock genre, that's fine. And, you know, if it's a variety band, party band, do that. Go see those people. go talk to them. And that's the best thing. There's a lot of Facebook groups for musicians in Dallas that are real easy to meet people. And Bands in Town, is a good little board. Facebook has kind of stole their thunder, but you can get in, but to those scenes without having to much effort because of the internet these days. So,
Right.
but the biggest thing is like, yeah, go out to Sambuca 360 when a band's there that you like. Talk to so ask them who the band leader is, right? And have your card information, give them your card. Say, hey, look, if you can use me as a sub, I would love to sub for you. And probably the best thing to do is, go hit, 6, 7 of those bands up, find their websites and tell them, hey, I went through a real bad period, when Aiden was born and I needed extra work. And I went through the variety band, before I started Inversion, I went through the variety band pages and told the band leaders, I'm Philip Holmes. I can play anything. And, I would really appreciate if you need to sub. And, one of the first people who helped me out was Bill Downing and, Walton Stout Band. And he replied to me and he said, hello, Phil, I can't let you sub because I'm the guitar player, but I'll certainly, spread your name around. And he did that. Right. So, and so one of the first people, I kind of started subbing with was with Limelight and Downtown Fever when, with the Emerald City family. And so I did that for, I guess, a little over 2 years before, I started my own band. I was also in Studio 54 and they're a party band. Very, very, at the time, I don't know I haven't seen them lately, but at the time they were working a lot. And so every weekend I would have, clubs and privates. And so it really helped. So, yeah, I mean, website, go to the shows, introduce yourself, have a good demo. I mean, and studio demos are okay, right? Studio demos are great, but have a YouTube demo. Like if you want to get into a genre like the party band, don't send them a demo of you playing, a Metallica, song. That's not,
Right.
they're going to say, no, rock guy.
Yeah.
And so, and I got that, I thought, because there are people with the hair, they thought I was a rock guy, right? And they were like, no, I don't want to hire him. He's a rock guy. But I mean, I can play anything. I can play anything I put my mind to.
Right.
So have your demo aimed at the genre that you're trying to get in, right? So do a YouTube. You can go out to, various backing track companies, like on the web, backing track websites. Buy 4 or 5 of your favorite songs in that genre that you play well, and play along with it for in your video, so they can see who you are, what you look like, and how you play. And that's your best thing. Put that thing on YouTube, send it to every band leader in town. I guarantee you, if you're good, you get work.
Awesome. One of we have a couple comments on here from people that are in your band. One is about Jason. I mentioned Jason, and then is it I don't know if it's Tanya or Tanya Roberts.
Yes, love her to death. Yeah, she's she is like incredible. She's we're talking about low end, but Tanya is, man. I mean, talk about. She ran New Orleans. Her and her husband Todd ran a club in New Orleans where they were the house band. I think they were on Bourbon Street for 18 years. And
wow,
she, Tanya could carry the whole 3-hour set by herself.
Wow.
Vocally, she's a vocalist, a great vocalist. And then we have Brandon, who, literally, of all, he's of all the singers. I mean, I just, every time I play with the guy, I'm continuously impressed with him. You tell him to learn a song or 3 or 4 songs, and I'm talking like some of them have raps and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've never seen anyone with photographic memory like his. It's like ridiculous. Like Brandon, he'll like learn a song in like 30 minutes. It's like freaky.
Wow.
Wild.
Like I'm like, wow, how do you do that, man?
Yeah. Teach
Like,
me your ways.
Yeah.
Well,
what are you doing? How do you
One
do
of
that?
the sorry, so don't mean to
No, it's
interrupt.
good. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that they're alluding to in the comments here is that the band that you've made has kind of become like a musical family.
It is.
And I know that for myself, one of the hard Ben, I'm sure you've had the same thing. When you have small groups, one of the things that could be difficult is that personal relationship. And I'm
Yes.
curious how you overcome the potential pitfalls of that type of setup.
Well, I try to give everyone input, and I know it can't be like I've had another band before, Inversion, that did okay. Its success was somewhat limited, but it was like an autonomous collective, and everyone kind of voted, and it didn't work out real well
Right.
because when you have I think it was a 7-piece, when you have 7 leaders let me grab this, hold on. When you have 7 leaders, and we had some strong personalities, it just kind of rips things apart, right?
Yeah.
So, but I love everyone's perspective, and I always tell everyone, look, I always, not only when you have a problem or a complaint or something that needs to be brought to my attention, first of all, chances are I've already seen it and I'm aware of it, right? And even if I didn't say anything, because I never, even like at a show or something, if I see something I don't like, unless it's something super critical, I generally will never say anything unless it's like a showstopper until after, because I don't want to freak everyone out and bring the band down, and the energy will suck and somebody will be hurt, hurt feelings or whatever. But
Right.
the big thing is the big I guess strategy in the band family is just to listen, right? Try to listen as much as you can. I mean, I've had bosses that were bullies, right? And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that people want to approach. And and I know that with business owners, I don't know if you guys have ever run one. Sometimes you get in that survival mode.
Absolutely.
Where everybody's coming at you like literally a mile a minute, and you've got 5 people on you, and you kind of get in that you're so overloaded that your natural reflex is to shut down and to push people away and say, wait a minute, I can't process this right now, can you come at me later? And there's an art form to that, and I can definitely say that all of my adult life I've sucked at it, and
It's hard.
it's hard. And so, but I feel like in the last few years that I've become better, and I try to be better to make people feel like their input is registering, which it is, even if they don't think it is. And I don't want to, with a leader, any band leader, you got to make sure that you're saying, yes, I hear you. I can't do anything about it at this exact moment, but it is registering it, and we will come up with a way to get around that or make that go away in the future, or better for you, or better for the band, or whatever. And that's how that's what you do. And it's a sincere will, or I guess desire to see their input taken care of, because I know that 9 other brains are going to be better than one, but a lot of times people want things done right now, and you're going to have to do this right now, and that can't happen. But you have to make sure that they understand that turning a 10-11 piece band is like steering the Titanic.
Right.
And you're just trying to avoid the iceberg. Right. So it doesn't happen fast, but it will happen. And when it does, that input will have been valuable, right? And that's what you want to make sure that they understand, is their input is valuable. It may not happen immediately, or it may not happen fully, but it'll be, a consideration in the course of things, right?
I think that's great general relationship advice. If you got conflict between, your brother and your sister or whatever, you just listen. If you just let them know that they're heard. I've found in my short span of adult life that if I just show these people that I listen to them, it just completely relaxes the mood. Like it puts all the guards down, all the guns come down, and it's like, okay, now we can at least have a discussion.
Right.
But I mean, now you're talking about, add 9 more people. It's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it's a lot.
Yeah, and then throw a wedding planner in there, and then that's when it really gets interesting. And so, you got musicians who are, generally speaking, the smartest people, right? Like, I mean, if you're a musician, your IQ is probably going to be above average, and that's just my observation. But musicians are intensely individualistic, and so they don't generally like to be told what to do, right? So you just try to create the format and then let everybody do their own thing.
Right.
We had a comment coming from Alex Stiers.
Oh, yeah.
And Alex says, love to hear your take on the state of the industry with clubs closing, full-time musicians struggling to find work.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. And I mean, thank goodness, there's the contractor unemployment right now where a lot of people would really be on the street. And so hopefully
Right.
I'm hoping that they'll, if this continues and they continue to shut down these venues, like they are, they're going to have to do something for musicians. Right. And I hate to say that because I'm a small government guy. I'm like, get government out of my way, out of my pocket, out of my head. But conversely, that the government is doing this, so they're going to have to take care of the situation. Right.
That's one of the main points that I've thought about is like, you guys don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice, right? You don't have a choice. So, as far as the musicians that are out there right now that are struggling, I mean, the only thing that I can say is, try to get a day job that's not going to be super involved, because this will pass, right? This is going to pass. This is going to pass. This too shall pass. And we'll, on the other end of this, we're going to look back and say, wow, that really sucked, but we got through it. And then clubs closing has been kind of a thing that's been going on for the last couple years. And there's a couple reasons for that. And the main reasons are the DWI limitations going down. So in other words, they've tightened up DWIs, and people just do not want to get a DWI, and a lot of people can't afford to take an Uber, to and fro. And so that we see that more and more people are doing that, and that's good. But if you're going out to a club and you have $50 to spend, right, then there's a $10 cover fee to get in. Then it's not going to be real fun when you have to spend that other $20 just to get back to your house. And so people are on budgets, and that makes the budget go, to shrink, because if you want to go out, you either find somebody who's a designated driver or do that. And so we've actually seen, cops hanging out in the parking lots, literally picking people off.
Wow.
In Flower Mound a couple years back, until the club owner went out and addressed it. Well, those 30 people they picked off are never going to come back there.
Right.
Some of them won't even have their license anymore because you get back there, they're going to have to ride the bus, right? So, I mean, the fact is clubs open and close for a variety of reasons, right? And so sometimes they just don't have their four walls solid, right? Their service sucks, their prices are too high, whatever the case may be, right? I mean, I've seen some mega clubs come into Dallas where their service just wasn't good, right? And so and their prices were high, and people would tell me, hang on just a sec, guys.
That's okay. Popular guy.
Yeah, we did that one club I played in Houston. It's called Los Carrusales, which is the carousels. It was, I mean, we started that gig at 1 a.m. We
Wow.
started that gig at 1 in the
Yeah,
morning.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the clubs, I mean, sometimes the clubs do things like that. And so, and what the main thing that I've seen, the reasons why a lot of them have closed is it's the four walls principle. And then they'll start jacking with the schedule. So they'll think that that the band, they'll have a band, they won't do any promo. Like they literally will rely on the band who's already underpaid, right? To
Mhm.
to bring a crowd. Well, they're not paying them to do that, right? So a lot of times, like I'll give a club, hey, here's an option, right? If you want me, because I'm in advertising, I've done this, and if you want me to promo this, like really promo and get you a good, $15,000, $20,000 night, give me a promo budget. Put it on
Mhm.
my salary. Give me $500, man. I will make sure that everyone in your, the 5 square mile radius is going to know. And a lot of know about our show a lot, but a lot of the clubs, either don't have that budget or are very reluctant to do something like that because they don't understand what you're doing. Right. So,
That makes sense. It's like a leap of faith.
right. It's a leap of faith. And,
Hmm.
and honestly, in the advertising world, as you guys might know, $500 on a weekend gig is beer money. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
you're talking $25,000 for a week for a billboard on the North Dallas Tollway. So, I
Yeah.
mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the club owners are coming in and they don't really understand promotion. And the ones that do will make it. But leaning on the bands to exclusively do it, it's a partnership deal. The band should tell people, they should communicate that in their email list and their social media and all the stuff that they do. But it's equally a responsibility for club owners to promote live events if they choose to have them, and if they don't, then they can't blame anyone but themselves.
Right.
That's interesting. The way that you described some of these club owners, it sounds like a book that Ben and I read early on when we were starting this business called The E-Myth.
Oh,
And I don't know if you've read that one, but it talks about how people are, what Ben, what's the term? Reluctant entrepreneur, or you just kind of fell into it. You'd have no idea
Yeah.
how you
You
became
have
it.
no. You
You have
have
no
yeah.
no
skills.
Hey, wait a minute.
understanding of
How did I
entrepreneurialism.
get this? How did I
Right.
get this job?
Right.
Well, yeah, there's like no formal training to it. So basically, the point of the book is a lot of people think, like say you're a plumber who works for a plumbing company and you want to go start your own business.
Yeah.
So you instead of actually building a business, you just become a plumber that has to do all the payroll and the booking and the sales tax. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. That's generally how it happens. And the best way around is through. I mean, the inversion, you know, it's a lot of work, but what makes it worth it is, getting up on that stage with the people that I play with, that,
right.
I love these people, and we are, we are a family, and that'll never change, whether, no matter what. Right. So, um, the relationships that I've made, like I said, in this band have been lifelong relationships. Even people who have moved on, I still maintain a lot of those relationships, and I'm grateful for it.
Right.
And so, but yeah, the business aspect is definitely, it's a hard thing. But the music and getting up and playing with these folks and watching the audience members that you make smile, right? That's what
Yeah.
it's really all about. And that's what all of our goal is, right? Is to bring something beautiful to people, and it
Yeah.
makes them laugh and hug each other and dance, and at the end of the night they can say, wow, that was, an incredible show, right? And so that their wedding will never happen again. Their, that
Yeah.
their Christmas party, this is the only one that they're going to get in 2020, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
when they call back next year, you want them to say, you know what, people are still talking about our Christmas party last year and they want to see you again.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what makes it worth it, is when you get that call. Right.
Right. Yeah, that's what the big thing, that when I started first getting into gigs, Michael actually gave me my first gig, and it was like, people will remember you, and people will remember the experience that you gave them. But well, we're right at the hour mark, Philip. So if people want to find you, where do they go?
Go to inversionband.com, www.inversionband.com, and just inversion, and that's just like the word, and then band.com. And you can find us on Facebook too, Inversion Band. We have your party.
You guys have a YouTube page?
I don't. Well, yeah, I only have a couple videos up there. It's time for our new promo, because we have new people, and and I was actually just gearing up when COVID started. I was actually starting to shop for video people, and then all of a sudden this hit. And we tried to get some compilation videos going, and it just didn't have the consistency. So I kind of scrapped that. And so I'm looking, when we probably in the fall, we're going to probably need to get a new, do something going on to show the accurate members of, what's going on here. So.
Right. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on and just talking with us and introducing a lot of our listeners to a different side of the music scene. So
yeah, absolutely.
We all know the Dallas Symphony and all that, but this is great to talk about the other side of how musicians can make a living. So
well, thanks, and I appreciate you having me, and have me back anytime.
All right, we'll see you.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.